first, Harrison Ford is now Thunderbolt Ross, taking over the role that once belonged to William Hurt. This role takeover is very different from the others that will be on this list. There was no drama or money issues or anything like that. Unfortunately, Hurt passed away in 2022. He played Thunderbolt Ross in 5 MCU films up until that point, if you count The Incredible Hulk, which I do. The character is a pretty big deal in the MCU and was supposed to be a focal point in many upcoming projects, so Marvel decided to go the route of recasting the character instead of trying to write in someone new. Harrison Ford was the perfect candidate with his impressive resume, so he got the job. That's why, in the trailer, there is a line about Ross having a new look. Emily Blunt was supposed to be the MCU's Black Widow, but instead she was forced to drop the role due to a movie that she really seems to hate. Blunt was the top choice for the MCU super spy, and it seems like she was very much on board with playing Natasha. It's a shame she never got the chance, and it's because of the Jack Black movie Gulliver's Travels. Emily Blunt and Fox had a contract, and she had to be in Gulliver's Travels. Sadly, this meant she had to drop out of the MCU. Years down the road, Blunt has made it very clear how she feels about Gulliver's Travels. While on the press tour for Free Guy this year with Ryan Gosling, the movie came up. Blunt had said, "We do not talk about that film." Then, when Ryan asked everyone to jokingly rewatch it, she said, "Guys, please don't." It's really unfortunate that the film that made her lose out on Black Widow ended up being a bust for the actress, but maybe we'll see her in the MCU somewhere else. It happened for her husband, John Krasinski. He auditioned to be Captain America, didn't get that, but years later was a Mr. Fantastic variant. Blunt would certainly fit in with the MCU. She's proven her action acting abilities with movies like Edge of Tomorrow and The Fall Guy. Let us know who you would cast her as in the MCU. Josh Brolin brought Marvel's public enemy #1, Thanos, to life. It's hard to imagine he wasn't the first guy to take up the role. That was Damien Poitier. He is an actor and stunt performer that has actually been part of quite a few MCU films. He did stunts for Thor: The Dark World and Captain America: Civil War, but his big moment was the Thanos cameo in the post-credit scene of the first Avengers film. It was short but sweet. Despite his cameo only being like a few seconds long, the prep likely took hours. The Thanos from Infinity War and Endgame was created using like CGI and motion capture, but the 2012 version, all practical. Behind the scenes pictures show Poitier in the makeup chair with a big purple mask on his face. He looks less than amused, but I'm sure that that's actually just the mask's fault. This early version of Thanos was always meant to be like a placeholder for what was to come. Marvel needed time to figure out like exactly what Thanos was going to be for the MCU, which means they needed time to find the perfect actor. Poitier was the perfect choice for the cameo. Marvel made it very clear that the recasting of the role had nothing to do with the OG actor, it was simply a creative decision. We almost had a completely different Wolverine. A world without Hugh Jackman in the closet, the horror, I know. The role originally went to Dougray Scott. You might recognize him as the villain from Mission Impossible 2 or the Prince from Ever After, two of my favorite movies, not gonna lie. Scott was cast as Wolverine, and the only reason he didn't play the part was due to scheduling conflicts. Mission Impossible 2 filming was supposed to end just in time for Scott to make it for X-Men, but then Mission Impossible had all these problems that delayed production to the point where Scott had no choice but to drop the role. While no one else could ever replace Hugh Jackman, I do think Scott would have been a pretty good Wolverine. I kind of wish they had him as a variant in that one scene from Deadpool and Wolverine. Missed opportunity, in my opinion. Of course, we have to mention the big green guy, the Hulk, going from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo. Norton played the Hulk / Bruce Banner in 2008's The Incredible Hulk, but when it came time to add Banner to the Avengers, he looked a little different. Marvel recast the character for the 2012 movie, with Mark Ruffalo taking over the part. The official reason behind the recasting was Marvel wanted an actor who embodies the creativity and collaborative spirit of our other talented cast members. They made it very clear in their official statement that the decision had nothing to do with money. But what could Norton have done to warrant a statement like that? Well, according to the scriptwriter of The Incredible Hulk, Zach Penn, Norton allegedly took the reins creatively, maybe more than he should have. Penn claimed that Norton would just change things, like the direction his character walked or the names of small characters, but there were also bigger changes the actor made. Towards the end of the movie, Banner jumps out of a helicopter onto a civilian area. Originally, he was supposed to be pushed from the helicopter. It might not seem like a big deal to have that change, but Banner was going to land in a public place. Having him jump out intentionally instead of being pushed puts any potential casualties on his shoulders, which is not very heroic of him. There were also rumors that Norton was just so difficult to work with that Kevin Feige said he didn't want to work with the actor again. Terrence Howard was the MCU's OG roadie, but some financial conflicts and rumored behind-the-scenes issues led to the actor getting replaced with Don Cheadle. Terrence Howard apparently wanted a bigger paycheck for the second Iron Man film than what he got for the first. I mean, like, this is really typical for Hollywood, especially after a movie has the success Iron Man did. The problem with this was RDJ was no longer considered the risk, so as the title character, he was set to make the most money on the second movie. This meant there probably wouldn't have been as much room in the budget for Howard's financial demands. For the first movie, Howard got one of the biggest paychecks despite not being the lead because he was the sure thing. When Marvel was gearing up for the first MCU movie, Iron Man, superhero movies were still considered a gamble, especially for a character like Iron Man, who is very well known but by no means Marvel's most famous hero. This meant the stakes were high, the studio needed the right actors for every single role. Terrence Howard was good at what he does and well liked. RDJ, on the other hand, was still gaining back public favor after a tumultuous past, so he was the risk. His audition for the role was too good to pass him up, so Marvel casted him, the movie did great, people were back on the RDJ train again. So when it came time to determine how much money each actor made, obviously he was at the top of the payroll. It seems Marvel couldn't meet Howard's demands and the role was recast. There is another rumored reason as to why the actor was let go, that Marvel higher-ups allegedly weren't pleased with his performance, leading to many reshoots. There was actually a second Iron Man character that was recast, but I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know about this one. The role in question was Bambi Arbogast, Tony's then later Pepper's secretary. Originally, this character was played by Margie Moore in Iron Man 2, and in Iron Man 3, she was played by Susie Pratt. Fandrel's character is literally cursed though. It went through 3 actors for 3 movies. We'll start with Zachary Levi since he was the OG actor. Levi was cast as one of the Warriors 3. Unfortunately, there were some scheduling conflicts with the TV show Chuck and he had to drop the movie. He was replaced with Stuart Townsend, who we will talk about next, but you might recall that Levi actually did end up taking on the Asgardian role. When it came time to make the second Thor movie, the MCU was once again searching for a Fandral and offered it to him for a second time. Levi could accept, but it wasn't until much later that we learned he had hesitations about rejoining the MCU. Turns out he had seen the first Thor and felt that the Warriors hadn't been used all that well. He was promised that their role in the second movie would be bigger and he would be busy, so he signed the contract. Unfortunately, the Warriors, again, were not a big part of the movie, even less in the third installment, though Levi did get to have his super moment thanks to DC playing the hero Shazam. As promised, now we yap about Stuart Townsend. Stuart was the guy who got the role after Levi dropped, but he never actually ended up playing him. The official reason cited for his departure was creative differences. The unofficial, rumored reason he left was because he was allegedly difficult to work with. Stuart does have a history of leaving roles due to creative differences. The MCU role eventually went to Josh Dallas for the first movie, but then Dallas couldn't do the second movie due to scheduling issues with his show Once Upon a Time, and that is how the role ended up in Zachary Levi's lap again. And finally, did you notice that the Red Skull we saw in Infinity War and Endgame was a totally different guy? Red Skull was originally portrayed by Hugo Weaving, but in later films, Ross Marquand took on the role. Weaving was offered the opportunity to reprise the role, but he declined. The reason was Marvel didn't give him a good offer, and since he didn't really want to do it anyway, he passed. Apparently, Marvel was going to pay him less than his Captain America salary for the 2 Infinity Avengers movies. Weaving did comment on the situation to Time Out, saying that he found negotiating with Marvel through his agent to be impossible. But if any character was going to switch actors, Red Skull is a good one. Truly, not that many people noticed the switch since the character barely spoke in the movie and you can barely tell who it is under all the makeup. Plus, there were more pressing things the audience was thinking about when it came to the scenes he was in. But what do you think? Let us know. Bye!